deny it. It did happen. It's proven that it did happen. I can't explain it. We couldn't explain it, but it was real.
Michael Sherman, do these accounts seem ill-founded to you?
Well, not ill-founded. We're not perfect observers, and I think it's important to remember that the general public, all of us, and most people in government are way behind the curve of whatever experimental technologies the Air Force may be working on. And, you know, we didn't find out about the U-2 spy plane until one was shot down. We didn't find out about the stealth bomber until many years after it had already been flying over the Mojave Desert. In fact, it flies over my house in Pasadena every January 1st over the New Year's Rose Parade. And it's really spooky looking. It's quiet. It's black like a hole in the sky, and you don't hear it. You know, and imagine that it was sort of dusk and we didn't know about it. It could easily be interpreted as a UFO.
Why do you disbelieve it, though?
Oh, I don't. Well, okay. I think you make a distinction between are there extraterrestrials out there somewhere and have they come here? Science by nature is skeptical. I mean, I publish Skeptic Magazine, that's what we do, and because there's so many strange ideas out there, usually that don't turn out to be true. It's the default option is skepticism until you prove otherwise.
Can I say something here, please, you guys?
What I need is a...
Michael, would you have laughed, for example, at the Wright brothers?
Well... But we actually have the plane, and
I want to say something really quickly. We really need to make
actual physical evidence.
We need to make the distinction. We are not talking about extraterrestrials. We're not talking about aliens. A UFO is exactly that. It's an unidentified flying object, and a lot of these sightings defy a conventional explanation. And why can't we just say we don't know what it was?
Of course we can.
We're not talking about aliens. You're the only one talking about aliens. You're the one talking about aliens. We're not talking about aliens.
But your whole film is based on aliens.
We're not talking about aliens. We're not talking about extraterrestrials. We're talking about craft that defy a conventional explanation.
Holy Captain.
Under intelligent control.
Captain.
Okay, the point I want to make is my incident happened in 1967. We've got an object that hovered over our launch control facility, not only ours, but another launch control facility, as disabled 10 nuclear missiles. So if the question is, was that a U.S. experimental aircraft 40 years ago, why haven't we seen that aircraft today?
Well, there were hover aircraft in the late 50s, and we have...
Yeah, that made a lot of noise.
This was not an aircraft, sir.
So, you know, it's hard to say. You know, you're the only eyewitness to that, so, you know, we can... So the difference between constructing an entire new world view based on fragments of evidence, you can't really do that.
Fragments of evidence? Fragments of evidence? You know, there's not fragments of evidence.
But James,
go to the archives,
right.
Mr. Shermer, and look into it, and you can easily establish beyond a shadow of doubt that flying saucers have been whizzing around our airspace since the 40s.
Yeah, but
they don't make any sound. They have no wings. They have no visible means.
You agree with me that 95% of those are explained.
I do agree with you on that one, Michael, but I'm not saying aliens.
Time. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with some more moments. Don't go away. We're back. James Fox, why not a congressional hearing into all of this?
We had congressional hearings back in '66, I believe, in '68, and it's time we have more congressional hearings. And people have to get together and put pressure on from their constituents to your representative, and we need to get this thing over with. This is ridiculous.
Sergeant Peniston, does it bug you that while the polls say 80% of the public believes there have been unidentified flying objects, you tend to, people like you are not believed?
You know, it doesn't really bother me if they don't believe, but I think the evidence is overwhelming. And it's also compelling to believe that if these are unexplainable events, which the military clearly has demonstrated, then I would think that there would be higher numbers than that as far as people believing in some type of extraterrestrial craft. I would believe that.
You think, Captain Salas, we're ever going to get the whole story?
That's a good question, but I think we need to have the hearings. We need there's a preponderance of good witnesses out there that are ready, willing, and able to testify. All my witnesses that I outline in my book, most of them are still alive and would more than willing to testify.
In all honesty, I just recently ran into someone who very logical person who saw the Texas incident. He said they were moving fast. They were making no sound. They were not airplanes.
Larry,
he wasn't crazy, Michael.
Can I say one thing really quickly?
We have to
Who's
remember that,
James.
in science there's...
Hold it, James.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
In science, there's what we call the residue problem. In any given field, there's always a residue of unexplained anomalies that no theory can account for every single one. So James and I, for example, agree that 90 to 95% of all these thousands of sightings are explainable.
I agree.
So what we're talking about is just that extra 5 or 10% that we can't explain. So why not investigate? Sure, but let's not construct a whole new worldview around that.
We're not constructing a whole world new view, but I had to say really quickly that I met with a gentleman in Stephenville who was, unfortunately, is not willing to go on the record right now because he's being harassed by the military. He's asked the military to stop harassing him. Their response is, stop talking about what you saw. And it's the most unambiguous. He didn't see lights. He saw the craft.
Well,
and it was huge.
What if it's
and they don't want him to talk about it?
He said, stop harassing me. They said, you stop talking about what you saw. I believe this guy from the core of his being, he was being honest with me.
Okay.
There are people being harassed right now by the military telling to shut up.
But what if it's a top secret military aircraft? We don't want
well, then we should know about that technology. If they've got technology that can fly around without making any sound, without disturbing the wind, without taking off in the flash of an eye, it's obviously not getting here on Jet A fuel. Then with climate change and all these other issues, we should know about this technology. We pay for it.
Well, in part that's true, except on a need-to-know basis, there are certain national security reasons that people aren't told these
things. They've been hiding these craft for 60 years now, and I don't believe that.
Yeah, well, like, what are they afraid of, Michael?
Well, because if we have technologies we don't want our enemies to know about, naturally we're not going to share it. So this Area 51 in Nevada...
Iran is going to say, you saw... Okay, we're going to do more on this. You never run out of complete... Thanks for coming.